Yo, welcome to Crate 808, the place to be if your record collection screams 90s. And today we have a very special guest in the house, former Editor-in-Chief of HipHopDX, creator of the famous DX Breakdown series, and currently residing at Ambrosia for Heads. It's the company man himself, Justin Hunte. How are you doing today, Justin?
Word up, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, thank you for jumping on, man. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on. So Crate 808, 1990s hip hop. You've brought an album to talk about today. Which one you're bringing from the 90s?
East 1999 Eternal by Bone Thugs-n-Harmony.
Yes, bro, yes. Just to give you a bit of context, man, we've not talked about Bone a lot on this pod so far, so I'm ready. I think it's time. I think it's time for people to hear this. So listeners, get ready. We're going to get thuggish ruggish in here. Before we do, Justin, man, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
The least hip-hop thing in the last 24 hours? Let's see. That is a real question. I mean, I don't know if this counts or not. I'm going through some home improvement, so I'm finally wrapping up my home studio. So I've been putting up all this soundproofing on the walls and things. Okay. But I've been listening to tapes. I've got this old yellow Sony Walkman that I listen to. So that's my tape player. So I'm always listening to random tapes whenever I do home improvement like that. So
nice.
I sunk into some Miles Davis and some Kool in the Gang, which are super staples in hip hop. That's the first thought I went to. I was like, oh, this isn't really, well, gosh, I guess that is kind of hip hop.
yeah. They're like especially Kool in the Gang, man. That's at the cornerstone, right?
Right. I'll have a better answer for you as the podcast goes along. This is a brand new thought. It's a brand new thought for me. So I'm really put this on it.
By the way, before we even dive into this album, one thing, big up on that T game, man. It's slept on. Not enough people talk about the T's. And I'm a big T fan. So I was like, yeah, man, them T-shirts are heavy. So big up,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Big up.
Thank you.
So before we do get into the album, though, just for people who don't know, I'm going to drop a little intro so you can get to know. Let's take it back to July 25th, 1995, a mere 4 months after the premature death of a rap giant. Eazy-E left hip-hop with a staggering legacy in a ludicrously short amount of time, but his passing also tore open a gaping hole on the whole West Coast rap scene. For 2 years, Eazy had been cultivating a new brand of hip-hop on his Ruthless label, mentoring several acts who'd go on to have varying degrees of success, but his thuggish, ruggish pride and joy would throw his name right back to the top of the global music charts once more. Harking from the same Glenville neighbourhood that created Superman, Bone Thugs-n-Harmony were Eazy's top proteges, an idiosyncratic gang of brothers and cousins. Busy, Crazy, Wish, Flesh and Layzie Bone stepped into the arena with a hot EP, but after Eazy's passing, they were to hit universal status with their debut album, E1999 Eternal. This was rapped straight out of the graveyard, citing Mo Murder. These Buddha lovers were claiming Cleveland as the city they come from, so you better run. With gothic anthems tinged with deadly melodies and novel harmonies mixed with alien rapping, Bone's sound was ready to sweep charts and award ceremonies everywhere, while transforming the whole genre in an instant with their legendary smash hit Crossroads. With Eazy's guidance and DJ Unique on the board, Bone created a whole new world within the hip-hop universe with this utter anomaly of a rap record. With a style that would spread its tentacles into modern-day hip-hop, Bone hit such incredible heights of fame so quickly, they became the Guns N' Roses of rap. Peculiar and strange in execution, the thought and insight in their rapping and singing sparked a fan base that would thrive to this day, and it would go on to see the group sell millions, set trends, put a city on the map, and make songs with legends like Tupac and Biggie. So, Justin, man, tell me, why do you think this should be in Crate 808?
You know, the mid-90s was such an interesting time to me. I mean, you've seen the wall behind the show that I do and the breakdown with all the albums. And it always stands out to me how dark of a time period it really was. I mean, we think about Shiny Suit era quite a bit. I think we think about a lot of kids' raps because most of us were kids coming up. But you look at albums like DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. You know, you look at Tupac album covers in general, All Eyes on Me is just all black, and there's this fatalism that bleeds through. You look at Redman, There's a Dark Side, Biggie, Life After Death, Will I Be Alive When I'm 25? Even things that aren't really based around death and destruction and things like that are like the Fugees, the score is just black and orange. Like everything is really, really dark. And so you had groups like 3 6 Mafia, you had things like even Wu-Tang, a lot of stuff that RZA was doing with his side project. And East 99 Eternal, Bone Thugs and Harmony fits right into that motif, right? There was so many young people not feeling like they had a chance to live much longer than 25. Rap was still a young man's game. There wasn't that many 30-year-old rappers in existence, or at least getting recognition at that point in time. And here's this album that comes along that, all things considered, from track 1 through track 17, I think it's 17 track, it's really only about murder and marijuana. It's really 2 primary topics.
So right? True. So true.
Like they're collecting their ends from the cats that owe them money and they don't pay them, so they get murdered. You know, they're smoking weed and they're talking to the Ouija board. You know, and you know, outside of Crossroads, you know, it's really a very monoline album. And it's not generally the type of album that I love. But the thing that makes this one so important and so innovative is stylistically, they were able to usher in this marriage that we see almost every day these days between rhyming and singing. They had a melodic flow. They weren't just doing tongue twister fast raps like Das Effects maybe, or early Jay-Z, for example. They weren't stuck in, you know, just trying to rap as fast as possible. They had a melody with what they were saying, and they would extend and prolong the notes that they hold. And that's so, you know, ever since Justin Timberlake, Future Sex Love Sound, you know.
Sick reference. What a pull.
You know what I mean? Like, so much of rap has now gotten into this place where it's, you know, melody-based, melodic-based. And Bone caught a lot of flack for it in the beginning, but this album went on to sell 10 million copies or something crazy like that. So I think that their style, their approach to talking about murder and marijuana has transcended maybe the content of the album. But I love it. It's my first favorite album ever.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I'd love to dive into that history. But before I do, what you've said there is really, really interesting to me, because I'm wondering if this album could have worked in any other era apart from the 90s, because when we have that kind of quite desolate kind of viewpoint, the artwork, all that stuff you've broken down brilliantly, like about how dark hip hop was in the 90s, but so was Nirvana, who were bringing their thing out. Pearl Jam weren't the happiest people. You went on to do went on to be like Marilyn Manson and Korn, and I think this kind of dark subject matter permeates the 90s generally, and Bone fits so well into it, because I feel like all that stuff you've said is so true, and on top of it, they were like globally palatable, as in,
right.
I remember the first, even when you first mentioned Bone, you know, that you wanted to bring this album on, my first feeling was, oh, I remember when they first came out, and my perspective here as a genuine head at that time, they almost were on the cusp of being a novelty act. For here, it was like they were on top of the pops, they went straight to number 1. First time I ever heard them was the Crossroads. And I wasn't sure about them just because they went straight to the top and I didn't know much about them. But then I wasn't really schooled up on what Eazy was doing at that time either. Over here, we were kind of getting like more Dre, it was more Death Row. But it felt like they could have been seen a novelty to people who weren't in the genre. But then I remember getting the album. And then it was like,
right.
Oh, actually, no, there's just a world. Like, one of the best albums to do this was this one, which built a world for me. And it's like something I'd never heard before. You were saying there it was your first favourite album. Can you tell me, like, what you found in this compared to the genre at the time?
I'm a words guy in general. One of the reasons that rap is my favorite genre of music is because it has the most words. The instrument in rap is what you can do with the bars and the phrases you can put together. So I'm always, whenever I listen to any song, that's the first thing I listen for. Later, I'll listen to, you know, technique or style or the beat or production or whatever. I'll listen at a different level. But the first thing I always listen for is what are they saying and how are they saying it? Are they saying what they're saying in a way I haven't heard it before? And with Bone, I couldn't understand anything they were saying at all. Right?
This is, wow. Okay, the paradox is amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't understand none of it. So I had to, it became you talked about world building. It became something like that with me and my friends. We would record the radio hoping, first of the month came on maybe. And then we would just press play and rewind and press play and rewind and write down the lyrics that we thought were the case. Like we would try to write down what we thought they were saying.
That's amazing.
And so going through that process, we landed on the exact wrong lyrics 90% of the time. But, the way they were rhyming, the style that they were using, the production choices, their melodies and their hooks is ironically what ended up being so hypnotizing for me in that sense. So I would have to say the big difference more than anything else is the work it took to get close to feeling like I knew what they were talking about and not caring whether or not I was right, because it's the only album for me that's like that. Normally when I don't understand what someone's saying, they have to be saying it in an incredible way for me to care that much. Like Homeboy Sandman, The Good Son is one of my favorite albums. It came out in 2011, maybe. It's very contemporary in comparison. And he's another one of these artists that is stylistically on his own planet, has all the speed raps. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure him out, what he was saying, but he was so much clearer. You could understand what he's saying. Or like Eminem, Godzilla. You can understand everything that he's saying. The way Bone was doing it was, since it was more melodic, it was less like listening to a rapping typewriter.
Yeah.
And just the whole, everything around that, it just sucked me in. So I think it was one, how far I pushed myself to learn what these guys were saying at a time when I was most impressionable, and honestly, I think my appreciation for lyrics to the depth that it is at this point in my life, the origin story is probably Bone Thugs and Harmony in that sense, because I had to work so hard to understand what they were saying.
Yeah, and it's if you're willing, it's like there's lots of things in life generally, but we just did an episode on MF Doom's Operation Doomsday, and that was a little bit like that for me. Like, it's almost like, I don't want to give up trying to work out this puzzle box. And I figure with Bone, although I wasn't a massive fan at the time, through time, I kind of realised I actually listened to a lot of them. But at the time, they struck this really unique balance for me, because my brain just couldn't put them into a box. Like, they're very hard to compartmentalize in 1995 or 4. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to put that into like a box, which hip hop was becoming. And there was such a West Coast sound to this, but because it was made by a lot of West Coast people, I suppose. But the thing that really got me, and now I look back and think, oh my God, it's even more emphatic now in 2020, is how they twisted and subverted the whole gangster rap genre for me. As in, everything I'd known was Pac, Snoop, Dre, people who sounded and looked like hardcore gangster rappers. These guys didn't sound like, they looked like them, but they didn't sound anything like that. It was the only thing close to it was like Nate Dogg, but I could understand Nate Dogg. So it was like, wow. I think there's so much character in what they were doing. It was just too much for me to begin with. And then listening back to this album, you realise, oh wow, like that character, it's kind of like birthed in so many types of rap. And maybe that's because in Cleveland it was a bit of a wasteland or whatever for rap. I'm not really sure at that time. But like, there's West Coast, there's even like a RZA sound to some of these beats where I'm like, oh, this could quite easily be flipped by RZA on this. There's just a lot of elements in this that I can find in hip hop generally where I was like, wow, it's an album that's aged really well. And one of our categories is aged the best. What did you think has aged like some of the best things about this album?
I think you're talking about murder and marijuana. Weed is more legal than ever.
And there's still a lot of murder.
There's still a lot of murder. I think their stylistic approach has a big part of not sounding dated, because they were ahead of their time. Bone is so synonymous with Cleveland. I don't necessarily think that Los Angeles gets enough credit for who they turned out to be. But if you listen to their first album, they're more like a DOS Effects. They're rapping fast, they're rapping hard, but they're not as melodic. And then when the EP before East 99 comes out, which was called Creeping on a Come Up, when that comes out, that's when you get Thuggish Ruggish Bone, First of the Month, and a lot of those were much more melodic, much more West Coast sounding. And so when they left Cleveland, as the story goes, they got on the bus, headed west, they met Easy, got signed, the rest was history. But one of the things that one of the communities that they were around and coming up in was Freestyle Fellowship out here in Los Angeles. So I was like Skilo, those guys, if I'm not mistaken. They had a melodic kind of approach to how they did their thing, right? We don't think about the Fugees in that context, but those guys, Fugees and Scores, just rapping and singing the whole time anyway. I was asking Wyclef about that, you know, that marriage between singing and rhyming and the harmonies. And he pointed out the Cold Crush Brothers, you know, one of the hip hop staples. And they had songs like This Is the Way We Harmonize. And so that has always been something that's been around within hip hop, I think, their stylistic approach. But what separated them was the timing and the platform, in my opinion, meaning you had a lot of people talking about R&B, rapping bullshit. You know, there were songs talking about They Don't Dance No Mo, Goody Mob around that era. And so there was this perceived look, as you described, you know, of being potentially a novelty when you're doing too much singing and not enough rapping, right? And so they bucked that trend in a way that was much bigger than I think a lot of stuff that came out of Freestyle Fellowship, and was very different from the things that were happening on the coast at that same time. And you take a song like The Crossroads, which is their biggest hit. I think this album definitely went multi-platinum. I think Crossroads is probably what I meant when I said they sold 10 million records. I know that song is massive. And you have that whole song with an innovative video at a time when Eazy-E just passes away, and there's no profanity in it. I mean, that song can be played at church. You know, you play Crossroads at church every Sunday, you know, and everyone knows who Uncle Charles is. And so I think one of the reasons why, because I do agree, I think this album does hold up pretty well in terms of, is it still playable now? And I think some of their beat choices, sonic, in terms of the mood, the energy has come back around. I think lean trap music, you know, everyone being on opioids has slowed things down and make things sound a little bit more depressed. And that album, sonically, DJ Unique produced it, captures that aesthetic, which is back again. So you take that and you take the fact that they're rapping and singing at the same time as at a time when that was unique, and now everyone's doing that to some degree, at least at some point. I think that's one of the reasons why they've been able to remain a staple over the past 25 years.
One of the things about revisiting these classics, going back with like more of a seasoned, older ear, I was like, wow, the production of this is really, it's so layered. There's actually like a lot of layers to every track, and it's very cohesive as an album. But what struck me was, even though there's a distinct G-Funk sound, to me, it feels like there is, it doesn't overcome the tracks, or like, it doesn't dominate, if you know what I mean. As in, like, if you listen to any Dre album, that is really the dominating feature. Whereas this kind of makes it more subtle and brings in other elements, which is like their triplet flows and their harmonious bars and the dark subject matter. Also, this ability to like cram in as many words as possible into as few as bars as possible. Like, it's just this mad recipe where you think they're singing, they're also trying to say every word, and it's very harmonious, and they're all doing it in harmony. It's one of them ones where I was like, I just couldn't think of anyone else like this. And I was doing a bit of research for the pod, and there was a few like little bits where 3 6 Mafia had said they'd bitten their style. I wasn't into 3 6 Mafia at all this time, so I can't say that was influenced or not. But everything I've heard from them, it doesn't seem similar. I mean, do you have a take on that?
Well, I think, you know, the world building aspect that you mentioned with Operation Doomsday and MF Doom, that's another thing that Bone fans really fell into, because they had, one, you're spending all this time trying to figure out what they're saying. Two, Eazy had just passed away. Their album cover, it has like skulls in it and these cats just standing around, you know, posing. And then in the background, there's buildings that look like Fallujah. And then there's Eazy-E in the window. And then if you turn it around, if you took the CD out of the case and you pulled out the little insert, not the booklet, but the little sleeve that's on the back where the CD rests, you pull that out, you hold it up to a mirror, and it's all this Ouija weird, you know, like you read it backwards, and like, so you you fall into this world that's built around horrorcore, basically. So now you're even more invested. And so all these other narratives always came out. Once word spread that there was a beef with 3-6 Mafia, it wasn't necessarily that 3-6 Mafia bit Bone. It was that Bone bit 3-6 Mafia. And at that time, Bone was so much bigger than 3-6 Mafia. That was a big deal. This is a time in rap and hip hop where sounding anything like anybody, copying anybody was automatic. Points deducted. You lost your cool points if you sounded like other people, which is why, to me, it was a big mistake with Bone's second album. They basically made a double disc worth of diss tracks. Another story, another time. But all this world building went into it, right? And so one of the things with that beef with 3-6, they were saying that Bone bit 3-6 Mafia, not necessarily stylistically, but from an imagery standpoint. 3-6 Mafia, 666 Mafia. It was using a lot of horrorcore aesthetic. And one of the rumors that happened was that one of the members of Bone, his name is Wally. He passed away before East 99 and all these albums came out. And at the beginning of the Crossroads, you see this guy running, he gets shot, and he falls down. The t-shirt says Wally on it. So there was like a rumor at some time. I don't believe this has ever been verified. But 3-6 had something to do with Wally, But so many fans were just so pulled into this world that Bone put together that we would have believed anything. Yeah. So I looked at the conflict with 3-6 Mafia. Like, we took sides. And truthfully, it made me become a fan of 3-6 because now I'm going out and buying 3-6 albums to see what they're saying about Bone Thugs. There's a line that's on Notorious Thugs where Busy goes, 666 rivals spitting fire. It's the real truth, bitch. Break it down for a lot. Whatever he says after that, right? And so that was a shot at 3-6 Mafia, like 666 rivals spitting fire. So then now we're listening to this album again that we've spent all this time writing the lyrics down to, trying to find references to 3-6 Mafia. Over the years of me covering hip hop and rap and the culture that connects us all, I've had chances to talk to DJ Paul and, I consider Crazy Bone a friend. We talk pretty regularly now.
Yeah, how is he?
He's doing well. Yeah, he's good. He's actually, he manages artists. He just signed a new artist. He sent me a link. They both said that, and a lot of it goes back to an article written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it was the source 1996-7. He was following Bone on the road. Bone goes to a show in Memphis, and some cats just come up to Bone in like 95, 96 and says, "Oh, you guys ain't nothing but 666 busters or Bone Thug biters or something." Because in Memphis, everyone felt like Bone was writing 3-6 because of the imagery, but not necessarily because of the stylistic stuff. I just found out within the past 5 years. Oh. So, there's so many of these things that are part of the Bone Thugs lore and around that time. And if you're a Bone Thugs fan at all on any level, you were trying to figure out stuff just through the pages of the source or something.
It was like a wild ride. Like, I remember being a Bone fan, but like not like massively, but just, and like you said, on any level. Just the Busy drama when he was like just not appearing in any video. Right. I just remember clearly, like Crazy, like I really enjoy Crazy. His voice is amazing. But then I remember hearing about him shooting Wish, and I was like, what? He shot his own, and just like these weird, wild tales would just come to us. But then, obviously, the beef. I'm operating on a level where, as a fan, that whole 666 thing, the 3-6 Mafia thing, I was not aware of it. So you telling me this now, it's amazing that there was more than just the East-West beef. There was other beefs that were going on in rap that people getting fully engrossed in. It was engrossing back then, man.
Hey, yo, what up, y'all? This is Prince Paul, and you're rocking with Crate 808 Podcast. Now, I want you to enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. All right? Peace.
But yes, so if we're going on to another category that we have, most rewindable track, I'm going to have to pitch it to you, man. What you got?
Most rewindable track. I think Crossroads is probably the one that is going to have the biggest. You could play that around anybody and people are going to rock with it. I think First of the Month is the one that caught me. I didn't realize I was singing welfare carols. You know what I mean? But it's so amazing. Like cats are getting excited about getting their government check. You know what I'm saying?
That is amazing.
Awesome.
There needs to be more of those. There needs to be more of those nowadays. There's just not enough of
I don't
those.
know. I'm not sure. I like to think they're waiting on their paycheck from work. But
fair.
no, these guys are definitely selling all kinds of drugs because I've been listening to the album. So it don't sound like they don't rap about going to their 9 to 5. But I'll say this, my personal most rewindable track, I'll say is Mr. Bill Collector.
Oh, okay.
It's my all-time favorite Bone Thugs song, period. And Layzie's always been my favorite because Layzie, to me, was the best mix of being able like style, but harmonies and style, but also saying the flyest stuff on this album to me because I could understand him. He was like right in the middle. He was like the Goldilocks, right? If you got Busy on one end, you got Wish on the other end, and then Crazy and Layzie are kind of in the middle.
So if you're power ranking your Bone MCs, if you're power ranking them, drop them for me. Layzie's top.
Layzie. Let's say we're looking at 1995 and just what came out at 1985, I would go Layzie, Busy, Crazy, Wish. But that's me. I mean, most people go Crazy, Busy, or Busy, Crazy, one of the two.
Mine's Busy, Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Flip on another day. We flipped on another day, so.
Right. So, but the thing with Layzie to me is, again, this album is about nothing but murder and marijuana, pretty much. And so Bill Collector Bone is like the beat, the melody behind it really captures me. It's dark, but it's where it's placed in the album. Actually, this is kind of funny. So I was interviewing Crazy one time a couple of years ago, and I was asking him about the sequencing of the album, because the album, if you listen to it, sounds like it's a day in the life. Like it sounds like everything is happening in a row, right? Like East 99, they're in Cleveland, chilling on the corner of East 99, hanging out with their homies on Eternal. Crap when they came, they got to rob some cats, they get arrested. Yeah. The next song is called Down 71, The Getaway. That's Highway 71. So they broke out of jail. The interview show them breaking out of jail, and they run, they get away from jail. And the next song is Bill Collector, and they back on the block trying to get their money back. You know what I mean? So that's what the song kind of feels like. You know, it feels like retaliation, retribution. It feels like, you know, the universe finally allowing them the opportunity to get the big payback. And so that always sticks with me. So the mood of it, where it placed in the album, what it sounds like, and then Layzie's verse on there is my favorite Bone Thugs verse.
Oh, sweet. Okay, man, that's nice.
And then right after that is Bud Smokers Only. So after they get their money back, they pay back. They start smoking some trees. And then their homie dies on Crossroads, and they miss their Uncle Charles, y'all. Yeah. So it's like you could listen to the songs and feel like the album is sequential, even if it's not. But yeah, it's my favorite track, definitely.
I wonder if they recorded it that way. I wonder if they recorded it in sequence.
They didn't. They actually did not. It was not intentional per the members of Bone Thugs, but Eazy-E did all the sequencing, so that makes sense to me.
Ah, I see. Okay. Eazy he was slept on with that kind of stuff. He's a better, you know, label head than a producer, than a rapper. You could say that. I know a lot of people love his rhyming, but I would think, you know, the other stuff he's done has been incredible. And finding these guys, you know, they found him, I suppose, and they were just like, you know, I think it was bullying him to be signed, right? It's something like that. And yeah, and Eazy just felt it, man, and went for it. Talking about most rewindable, though, again, one of the best perks of this whole thing is going back, listening to an album with these different ears and being like, wow, there's other moments I've completely missed. So at the end of East 99, I remember as a kid, that harmonious outro would just be my favourite moment, and rewinding that over and over again. You're like, East 1999, that whole bit.
Right.
Love that bit.
Right.
Yeah, and it's one of the few bits I could actually understand what they were saying, so you can rhyme along to it. It was great.
Right, and the melody's great.
And the melody's great, absolutely. And they if these were just singers, they'd be making amazing R&B soul albums. But, you know, the fact that they could spit as well was amazing. And then, like, the transition from Mr. Ouija to Mo Murder, that as well really got me going. I like the way they're talking about the occult R&B. Right. And then the hook is about more murder. Like, this is just the most unique thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what?
There's a song, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a song on there where they talk about red rum a whole lot.
Yes.
I never knew red rum was murder backwards. Like, I was listening to this album for 3 or 4 years before I was like, oh, shoot. you trying to get that red rum? That's murder spelled backwards. I mean, it got deep with Bone Thugs. You know, another rewindable moment on there for me was, I think it's No Shorts, No Losses, where Crazy's verse uses the titles to other Bone songs to tell the story. So it goes, it's like Mo murder, and Ouija will be with me, creeping on the come up, doing it for the love of money, stoking gappers, walking jack was ready to pep you if we have to, remembering no surrender, trick it up, golf it, mid no pretender, Leatherface taking no shorts, no losses. Yeah, I used to love that part. Yeah.
Man, you have just blown my mind. I did not know that he was using the title. Shit, man, Bone go deep, bro.
Yeah, they were deeper than cats gave him credit for. Then they do now.
Even today, like I was just doing, you try to put your research in for the subject and go in, and I was just stumbling across these YouTube channels that are like, I thought, well, they've done quite a few Bone videos. You go on there, it's just Bone. Like there's actual just YouTube content just for Bone. And I think there's a shout out to Beyond the Harmony YouTube channel because they were one of them, and I was like, my God, man, if I had the time, like to just like they analyze everything, and they are, like you said, very cryptic, very even when they're sitting there and talking, like they'll be on Vlad, and there's a really good interview where Crazy's doing Crazy's bit, and Busy's just sitting there like this fedora hat, just like low, not even looking, and just sitting there, and you're like, they're just different, man, like they're just unique, and I think that. Yeah, it still hits home. You brought up a few bars. Oh, by the way, my most rewindable track was Die, Die, Die. Like that, man, heavy, right. So heavy that. But what I was going to say was, talking about bars and your hottest bars.
Yeah, I mean, well, I like Layzie's verse on Mr. Bill Collector is my favorite verse ever in Bone Thugs history.
Oh, wow.
And it's my favorite verse on this album, too. But I think you got to give a big nod to Busy's verse on Mo Murder. The second to last song.
Okay.
Like that verse is the verse that had all of us Bone fans at that time
just go mental.
Super, just crazy. We have no idea what he's saying. No, dude, this is when it was just, let me put the pencil on the pad down. This writing thing ain't working no more. I'm just gonna feel it, know. But he starts the verse with eternally thugs the style, wanna die, murder now. He's 99, finally been grinding, no more thinking about the underground. Lay down and grind, everyone dies, they die, but with my killers, no lie, thugging rock his head. And then he just goes nuts by the end of the verse. I mean, but the way his flow bounces all over the track is just, it's magic.
It's so odd to feel those feelings, though. Back then, like in 95, like when I would open up a rap album and play something, I expect to feel certain things, which would be like my neck breaking or me rewinding a verse or these things. When I'm listening to Bone, I'm like almost dancing. It's odd. It's an odd feeling as a fan, just being like, this is harmonious. It's like I'm listening to a singer, but and the flow can, like, I think it's Down 71 where Crazy's flow, the breath control on that as well, like, and the way the beat cuts and he's just spitting. That track is serious, bro. Like, there's a lot of those tracks on here, but just a massive caveat for everyone when we talk about hottest bars, the chance of misinterpretation on Bone is huge. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of what they said. It's just you going on Genius and checking this stuff out.
Genius is wrong. Genius is incorrect. I mean, no shots to Genius. I love those guys, but Bone Thugs, I mean, this is one of my favorite sketches or videos that Hot New Hip Hop used to put up. They used to go to rap shows and they would ask the rapper the lyrics to their songs. They would recite a lyric and then the rapper would try to guess what the next words were or whatever. They did that with Bone. Bone had no clue. Like, they were like, okay, Bone, which one of your partners said this lyric? And it was all from this album. They were like, man, I don't even know what I said that. I don't even know if I said that, you know? Like, there was a lot of that. I'm not saying that they don't know, but I'm saying that they...
Yeah, that's amazing. But this is the thing, man. And I think there's other things in this album that you can sleep on, like, because they are quite harmonious and there's a lot of time has been taken layering things. So I sort of talk about production, even with their vocals. Layzie's vocals on the track where Busy breaks out of jail is like really nicely layered. Then it descends into like these mad gunshots, which are just the ad-libs for this track now. And I was like, oh, right, so they're just shooting now. And it's reminded me very, very much of Thug Love that they did with Tupac. And I was like...
Incredible song.
Yeah, But is that the most amount of shotgun sounds ever used in one rap track? Because it has to be up there. like, I've not counted, but that's double digits easy. Like, there's just so many.
It is. It's like Modern Warfare.
Yeah,
it's like a melee in Halo or something.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, perfect way
but they are going, dog. They go.
Yeah, man, I love that. One thing I would like to ask you as well, but I think I know what you're going to say. If you had to describe this album in 3 words, what would be the 3 words? But I feel that you've already used 3 words that would probably nail it.
Yeah, murder and marijuana. That's what that was about.
That's what it was all about. It's better than mine. I was like poetic thug passion. And not the drink, but like more like, like there's everything they spit is like passionate. They don't really phone anything in on this album. Bone are really poetic, man. There's a lot of ways you can read them, but I think one of the ways I look at it is there's a lot of poetry in here. Even if you don't understand what it is, it can still evoke that feeling from you because I don't know if you've heard that Jamaica. There's a lot of new music out there, and Coffee from Jamaica, the young singer.
Yeah.
I have no idea what she's saying half the time, but it sounds amazing. And I know one of the pillars is like lyrics in rap. I understand that. But if you were to scratch the surface on Bone, they have them as well. Yeah, I think for me, this is an album that kind of really straddles that kind of bridge between that triplet flow of then and that what it is now, which we've already talked about, which is like, they just like, it's everywhere now, and that's it.
Right, yeah. I mean, like stuff like, one of my favorite breakdowns I ever did was the Future Theory, looking at how Outkast was responsible for, mumble rap. And there's an interview with Future I think Peter Rosenberg is interviewing Future. And Future's talking about how he was so high in the studio when he made Tony Montana. Yeah. That he couldn't understand what he was saying, but he just felt good. It just felt amazing. Wow. And there's a whole lot of that with Bone, on this album. There's a lot of that on this album, just feeling like it's urgent, feeling emphatic, feeling gargantuan. So they capture a lot with their vocals without us necessarily knowing what they're saying.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is DJ Premier, and you're checking out the Crates 808 podcast. I put an S on it because there's more than one record in the crate, you know what I'm saying? So that's how we dig, that's how we play, and that's what real DJs do. You heard? That's why it goes down. We out here.
We've talked about most rewindable tracks, but do you think there's a track on here, and like I said, it's quite a long project, but it's very, very cohesive and kind of steady throughout the whole thing. Is there like a hidden gem on here, or a track you feel that needs a bit more like it's a bit slept on?
We crept when we came. Crept when we came. It's one of them. It felt like a sequel to Creeping on the Come Up, which was that song. It sounded like it was a direct response to it. For me, honestly, Buddha Lovers is the last song that I ever really liked. That one is just straight singing, and they're taking that song "Choose It, Lover," where they switch it and they go Buddha Lovers. Gotta learn to smoke the Buddha. Like it's just, I didn't catch the, the lightheartedness of it initially. I'm at this point, I'm critical. Like, man, they ain't even rapping on this one. But it does provide a great reprieve from the rest of the murder happening right around it. So much murder.
Yeah.
Which is great. Land of the Heartless is amazing. That one feels like it's about Cleveland.
That for me is my hidden gem. The dark energy on that, it's amazing. Again, going back to the DJ Unique's production, there's like this bubbling water in the background of that track, which just the proper horror film vibes. It's like this creepy, crawly vibe to the whole thing. Like you could be walking down the street after a late shift at work, cold, and I'm walking to the train station, and this kind of like creepy track is on, and it creeps you out. You're like, what the fuck, man? Like, that track is slept on. Land of the Heartless. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Definitely.
They later I found out that was a bong hit. So it's the water at the bottom of the bong.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does make complete sense.
I found that out, years after listening to the album, but that is perfect. Yeah. Murder and marijuana.
Absolutely, man. But you were saying there about the just singing. They're just singing now. Another track, and maybe not a hidden gem, but like Definitely one that makes you think twice about this as a rap album in 1995. The balls to be doing this. Me Killer. Like, that's just worth a revisit generally, because you have like Land of the Heartless, Die Die Die. You have this kind of, okay, I get these are all working together. Strangely enough, this track, which is like this harmonious kind of murder anthem, it just really, really reminded me. I'm not sure if you like the Smiths that much, but I listened to the Smiths, and frankly, Mr. Shankly on one of their albums really sticks out. But then it becomes like a really interesting reprieve to the album, like you said. And Me Killer feels a bit like that. I'm not sure if it's just me being weird, but like when I was like listening to it, I was like, wow, this is like genuinely a different side to them. That would I listen to like a 6-track EP of them doing this? Yeah, maybe I would.
Yeah. That's kind of what their first album, their first EP was. You know, Creeping on the Come Up was I think it was 6 or 8 tracks EP. What they do on Me Killer is basically what they do everywhere all the time without the dexterous lyrics. Like, they're harmonizing about murder. You know, talking shit can only get that ass put to rest. Come flex, P. Get the yayo, don't fuck with the bones. They're hanging and banging and slanging shots to the dome.
That's amazing.
Watch that crumb. Like, that's really what they do, right? And so I would. I think it's fun. I would listen to a 6-track EP of Me Killers and Buddha Lovers.
Yeah, man,
you
definitely.
Know, that might be an idea for them to do. You know, I think that'd be easy enough.
Yeah, man. And then if we're going on to that, slips very nicely into my next category. If you had to, gun to head, put a non-90s rapper on here, let's talk about that. But also, if they did do an EP, what's the features, man? So let's go into the non-90s rappers first, though. So if you had to, who are you thinking would work on here?
Future.
100%.
I think Future will work here. I think non-90s rapper. I think Kendrick would work. Kendrick would drop some crazy third-person storytelling.
Definitely.
That, you know, so he would capture all the murder and the marijuana without having to be about him, so he wouldn't have any problems.
Yeah.
I think Lupe to me is God MC, so I don't see a box where Lupe couldn't go, because he can do every style. I think Luke could definitely do it. Who else? A$AP Rocky. He definitely would be the one.
Snap.
Yeah, he would be the one.
Snap. That's my boy. I got him down as well.
A$AP would be great. He borrowed quite a bit from Bone Thugs and Harmony in general.
I would say that the elongating of the lines and stuff, and I think there's a bit in there. I mean, initially when I was looking at it, at first I was like, oh, Big Crit could maybe work on something like Land of the Heartless or something, but then I was like, it's too hard for Crit. Maybe I don't know, it wouldn't fit as well. And
it really depends on how you feel about Killer Mike too, because I think Killer Mike could do it. Whole World came out in 2000? So is he a 90s rapper? I don't know. Really,
just out. Yeah, there's even a home for Young Thug on here somewhere. Like there's a lot of elements of like today in this, and I reckon if this dropped today, it's still globally smashed just because it's so of today. If we were looking at what's aged the worst though, I know this is like your favourite, but is there a piece of this album where now you look at it and think, that's probably not aged that great?
Oh man, I mean, from a song standpoint on this album?
Well, thing is, we say song, I was thinking about it and I was like, there's actually not much myself, but I think the thing that I thought would age the worst may be the artwork. But the artwork it's not professionally great, but it's actually quite dope because it makes you think of them then, and it's very of its time. So really, I'm cheating, but my age the worst was like maybe the artwork, but I like it. So yeah.
I would look at the artwork differently now as clothes get baggier again.
Yes.
Gold chains are still there. They're wearing basically starter baseball Cleveland Indians shirts and a starter Boston Celtics shirt, which are back in style. Two of them got their hair froed out nappy. The other one got pressed cornrows, pressed braids. So I mean, the jeans are definitely a year and a half away from being cool again. But I actually think that artwork kind of holds up. To be perfectly honest, I mean, maybe their name, Bone Thugs and Harmony. That Thugs and Harmony part does feel a bit gimmicky, but it's never held them back before. And I guess Layzie did call it Boneless Thugs and Harmony on IG the other day. No, crazy posted. Said Boneless Thugs and Harmony. So
isn't that their chicken or something? That was their chicken or something, right? They made like Boneless Thugs and Harmony chicken, and you're like, wow.
I think that's what it was. It's
Fair play to them.
Yeah.
Why not?
They got to get, branding opportunity.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
If you're not going to get paid from, your label, you might as well get paid from your brand.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I think probably the last song in there is called "Shots to the Double Glock." I think that's the worst song in the album.
Shots. Yeah. To be fair, it's the one I'd probably skip as well.
Yeah, I mean, but it's really setting up the Mo Thug family, because you got Poetic Hustlers and the Graveyard Shift, who also get a shout out on First of the Month. So these were the guys that they were signing, and they ended up putting out later as part of Mo Thug Family Records. I think it was their record label. But it's just way too many people I don't care about. I thought it was maybe, I just didn't think they were good back then, but they never really turned into anything later. So, I guess that was the right feeling.
Fair. And what do you think about the album title? Is it a yes or a no from you?
It's so personal to them that, it works with, a lot of the other imagery, the world building that they created around the project. East 99, Eternal. One of them's a street in Cleveland. It's two E's. Eazy-E plays off of Eazy-E really well. And then Eazy-E had just passed away, and they're saying Eazy is going to be with us forever. So I think the title still holds up.
We have our feature trinity as well, right? So as we've been doing this pod over this last year, there's been just a lot of 90s chat and best features in the 90s. And 3 names keep coming up, man, all the time. So out of these 3, you have to pick one to work on this album from the 90s. Which one you going with and on what track? Busta Rhymes, Method Man, or Nas?
To feature on a Bone song on this album?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's tough. I can't see Nas handling these beats that well. I just don't think of Nas as a very dexterous rapper. So I'll probably take him out. The album's about murder and marijuana.
Meth.
So I think that meth would make an impact there, but I don't know how he would sound next to Bone, because Meth was a very rapidy rapper for a very long time. Like, he was rapping about being the best rapper and being very witty and using cartoon references all the time. So I'm not sure how well that would hold up on this album. And the marijuana parts there, I don't want him sneaking no messages in. I don't want Nas sneaking no messages in. I don't need no messages.
I'm here for 2 things, people. Yeah.
So I think I would go with Busta Rhymes, because he was wild creative. I think that the type of stuff that he talked about, I think he was also a rapper a lot of times too. But I think how fast he can rap, how dexterous he can rap, his octave changes and flipping his octaves. I think that would be cool on the Bone Thugs album, which sounds weird because really Busta's a rapidy rap album too.
But he loved a hook.
Back then he was. Yeah, he was. I mean, his hook game was crazy. I think his voice, because his voice has a similar octave to Meth sometimes. So I think you get that octave, and I think you get the fast-paced bars that Bone was giving you. Busta would get a little harmonic every now and again, so I think it would fit in well. Yeah. But that's a really good question. That's a great question. I think I'll go with Busta Rhymes on that one.
I feel you, man.
I don't want any messages, and I definitely want some fast raps.
I love that you're here for 2 things. It's great. It's brilliant. I also had Busta. I thought, I'm completely with you. I can't see Nas on any of these beats. Like, it'd be interesting for him to try, but I don't think it would. I don't want to ruin an album, kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I don't think that Nas, he's obviously one of the greatest MCs of all time. He means a lot to so many people. I think that Nas gets more credit for what he says than how he says it. Because to me, he's not always the easiest rapper to listen to me. Yeah. So it's hard for me to find a moment when he's just rolling with the flow. Yeah. Consistently, after a certain point. I mean, I'm not saying that's a knock against him. It's just a reason why I wouldn't put him on this album.
Okay. Yeah, no, fair. You're talking there about just MCs generally there then. You might hate me for asking you this, but it's kind of a thing we ask everyone. Caveat, this can change tomorrow. Okay. Top 5 MCs all time for you.
Andre 3000, number 1.
Boom.
Lupe Fiasco, number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick Lamar, number 3.
Whoa.
Jay-Z, number 4. Tupac, number 5.
Just have you just been asked this question? Because that was
I made a video about it. I put it on my channel, so there's a video about it on my channel.
Of course,
so
of course, man, of course.
So I can explain them real fast. Like Pac, I love Pac, but I find myself more impressed with what he's saying rather than how he's saying it. I think Jay-Z has accomplished so much just in general.
Yeah, man.
Away from the business stuff, but from the growth of an artist and the sheer consistency of volume that he was able to put out at a time when that was really difficult for artists.
Yeah.
Kendrick has got the best 3-album run, arguably 4-album run in history, in my opinion.
You can definitely put him in that conversation.
Yeah, it's only between him, Pac, Kanye, and Outkast. I take off Pac because one of the things in general that's tough with artists from the 80s or early 90s is that the production sounds so dated in comparison that I'm not sure if it holds up over time. And I think Pac got a lot more credit for, Strictly for My Niggas and Tupacalypse Now because of the strength of Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, and Machiavelli. So I don't necessarily agree, but I can see the argument. And then you got Kanye, but I take away credit from people if they don't write their rhymes. I'm not saying Kanye doesn't write, but Kanye clearly gets a lot of help. And so I bring it down a little bit just because of that. And so now it's just down to Outkast and Kendrick. So,
But when you're looking at runs, though, when you're looking at runs of albums, I'm not saying he should be in your 5, but I think when you look at Doom's run has just been pretty spectacular for a while, and then he just kind of, stopped. But I mean, that run was pretty impressive.
I think it was. I'm 50-50 on Take Me to Your Leader. I know people love that one. That's not one of my favorite ones. Operation Doomsday I love. Vaudeville Villain I think needs more credit.
Yes, definitely.
I love Mad Villain. Mad Villainy is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Food. I can let Food go. I don't need Food.
Oh, Justin, man. Damn.
I don't need it. It just sounds so hokey to me. I mean, it's an amazing concept. It's definitely ready for Cartoon Network. But it is a hokey listen to me. It's dope and deep, but it's hokey.
I smell a debate.
But then I think Danger Doom is arguably the best project he ever made, and I'm a big Mad Villain fan. You know what I mean? I still think Mad Villain is the best album he ever made, but that Danger Doom project was special.
Absolutely.
So it's hard for me to put him in a row because I don't. Take Me to Your Leader, I feel iffy about, and then Food, I feel iffy about. So
well,
it's hard for me to put the run in there. But they're all incredible projects.
It's a good argument. I'm here for it.
And then Lupe was number 2. I think if Lupe dies in 2009, thankfully he didn't, obviously, but if he dies in 2009, there will be a lot of people saying he's the greatest rapper of all time because of the strength of Food and Liquor, the mixtapes, and how he was able to tell so many different stories from other people's perspectives. He was great at taking really big concepts and making them really tangible. So like he was like swimming in the quarks and the atoms and the protons and neutrons. And if you talk about world building, he was incredible at world building at the same time. So a lot of the same things that connect some of like the Dooms and the Bone Thugs, apply to Lupe at that point in time. And I think, and with that said, I still think Tetsuo and Youth is the best album he's ever made. And I don't think
brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And there's so much of Lupe around all these other artists. I mean, Kendrick, you could tell he studies. I don't call it biting, but I definitely call it studying. Just like you could tell how Lupe studied Nas, right? You could tell how Kendrick studied Lupe. And so that to me is just amazing. And then number 1 is Andre 3000 because he doesn't get old and he matures at the same time. I mean, I did a video on that too, on Andre 3000 being the GOAT. So
brilliant video, by the way, man. It's just really genuinely a privilege to just sit with you and talk to you because your videos just a few years ago were like the thing. I was like, wow, content. There needs to be more of this, and it's exploded. And there's been, and we're in the eye of the storm with you, man. But that video on Andre just made me start thinking differently about him. If he ever got it together enough to do, after hearing that Rick Rubin chat, if he made an album the way he wants to make it, it could possibly be like an absolute classic. I mean, we've not heard one note of it, but I have a feeling in my gut that Andre has it in him to do something like that because everything he's touched for so long has just been amazing. And after a while, you have to start thinking, imagine if he did a project again. You were talking there about Lupe. Just a little note. I think it was for a good 3-year run, my top 3, it was him, Rakim, and Mos for 3 years. And that's the longest time I'd not changed it. Because Lupe was just them mixtapes. That mixtape run. All time, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, this your boy Foul March, and right now, you are rocking live with the Crate 808 podcast. Enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. Peace.
Dipping back into the album, though, if we're looking at samples and the sound of this album, I really enjoy how they flipped a lot of these samples. What are some of your favourites on the album, and why?
Probably Choosy Lover, because it's not even a sample, it's just a remake.
Remake.
Here's another thing with me. I'm not a crate digger in that sense. No disrespect to the show. I love the show. but I've never been the guy that's sitting here trying to figure out where, the producer got the samples or which samples they put on there and they flip. I remember, I don't want to say I was never that guy. I became that guy out of love and appreciation for the craft and the culture. And when I started writing about rap music, it became part of my research whenever I was interviewing somebody. And then I was interviewing Pep Love. And he had to come out with an EP or something in 2012, I want to say. So we're doing the interview, and I'm talking to him, I'm like, yeah, man, I saw that you took this sample and you flipped that sample. What made you want to use these samples? And he barked on me. He was like, what you out here? You out here snitching?
Oh,
I can't be out here telling where I got these samples from. I haven't cleared these records. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, shit.
That makes sense then.
It's a minefield, man. It's a minefield.
Yeah, so you can get in trouble. There's a whole version of law that only exists to rights holders
to take you down. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
man.
there's armies that are just swimming through rap tracks trying to figure out where some extra money can come from.
Absolutely, man. That's scary.
Yeah, so I think that's probably one. Bloodsmokers uses this song called, what's it called? Reasons, I think.
Okay.
By Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's one of my favorite flips on there.
Nice.
And the introduction, to me, has the best one, because there's this part in the beginning where you can't really hear it. It's inaudible. It sounds like a song being played backwards or something. You can't understand what she's saying. And what it is, it's that girl, Tasha, from the Thuggish Ruggish Bone. It's the Thuggish Ruggish Bone.
Yeah.
So they took her when she says that and they flip it backwards. So they play her part backwards. They go, like that to me is probably the coolest one.
Is that overall what it is then? Because that's a real weird start. There's very odd vibes going into this album, but I love it. Yeah. I'm a big horror film fan, so I loved it. But yeah. But just on that note though, they do this throughout the album. There was another thing I really listened to back, and I was I need to rewind that. On the Die Die Die, brilliant, straight to the point, that album name, that title name, Die Die Die.
Right.
I know what I'm getting now. There's a moment where that track breaks down halfway, and it's just a breakdown. It becomes a real flash forward glimpse into experimental rap for about 10 seconds, and then it comes back in. I was like, what was that? That's such an odd thing, but just listen to it. Listen, people out there, go listen to. The whole album's good. Listen to all of it, but there are moments in there that pick him out, and you're like, wow, there's those moments where he talks about that sample being reversed. I never even knew that was her, but makes complete sense.
Yeah,
the fact that they used a video game sample on Eternal,
right?
I'm like, what? I'd never even heard of this video game. I was just looking on some sample website.
Champions.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Eternal Champions, and I never played the game. Did you ever play the game?
I did, man. It was one of the most disappointing games I'd ever bought in my life. I had it on the Genesis. It was a Mortal Kombat also ran, and I thought conceptually it was cool because it had underwater trident gods, people. It was like gods from different points in history, Greek gods, and all kinds of mythology.
Yeah,
and they had finishing moves, which were cool. They were the hardest finishing moves to do ever. The whole game was way too difficult. It was actually terrible. So I have played the game. I bought the game. I got mad at that game so much, and I just left the game alone just to be a part of Bone Thugs history, or my Bone Thugs history, because That shit was not fun.
Oh man, Bone, the love for Bone, man, it's real. It's real.
Yeah.
Oh man. But so to bring it all home now, what we do a 30-second conclusion. So if you can sum up your feelings about this album in 30 seconds and argue for why it should get into Crate 808, have you got 30 seconds for me, Justin?
I've got it.
Okay, ready, steady, go.
The mid-'90s was a darker time than most people remember. I think there's shiny suits and all kinds of big money. That comes to mind when we talk about what it was like to be a rapper and to be successful in that point in time. But there was a whole space of other ideas and thoughts and spirituality that would always seem to clash like eternal champions. And out of that beautiful explosion came Bone Thugs East 99, which is 2 parts murder and marijuana, but also a tribute to Eazy-E, also a statement, political statement on how people felt in general during that time period. And that created a masterful stylistic experience that has now been replicated over and over again in rap, pop, R&B, you name it. That type of album has to be in the crate, in Crate 808.
Boom, 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 boom. Not gonna lie, Justin, you ran over, but because it's you.
How long?
It's only about 10 to 15 seconds. It's fine because it's you, man. I know, man. I enjoy the breakdown that you bring, man. That's all good. Enjoy the champions thing in there as well. Wicked.
Thank you.
So, Justin, man, before we let you go, though, we just want to know, man, what you're up to. Like, what's in the pipeline from you?
More content. So I've been working at Empire Distribution, the record label, for the past 2 years. Incredible company run by incredible people, Ghazi and Nima. They have, one of the most innovative and artist-friendly approaches to the business of selling music that I've ever heard artists talk about, but also that I've ever experienced. And it was a bit of a detour for me because I've never had a goal or dream to work at a record company. And so when the opportunity came to work with them, I took it because I realized that with so much of my career being spent in media, I was good at asking questions and asking artists to do stuff. That's all the media does. They're always asking for things. I could see who was at the top of the charts or who Forbes says was the richest, but I realized I didn't know anything about profitability. I didn't know anything about scale when it came to the reports that came out. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know what it took to get an artist to go from 10 to 90 or 0 to 100 or, what to improve. I had no idea what it felt like to be someone who worked within a record label and couldn't commiserate with people who had that experience and realized it's the most thankless job ever. And so I wanted to learn more about the business of selling music because ultimately I sell perspective. And so I'm only as valuable as what I know. And so that 2 years was awesome. I recently left and now I am going full head on content once again. And so I have a content strategist rolling out on my channel, The Company Man. For the first time in a very long time, I'm open to freelancing and just sharing my ideas on different platforms again. So I'll be doing some of that. And then there's a partnership that I have with a music streaming service that I can't talk about yet. But so that'll be on the horizon.
Man, that sounds amazing. Yeah. As I said before, always on the grind, man. What do you think, like, content going forward into this decade? Like, is there something you see content becoming more like? As in, will it be more shorter form, longer form, or like more user driven? Or are the big boys, like the big companies, the big names, the big brands, slowly? Because it does feel a little bit like to me that the bigger, more established names are slowly seeping in. As a man from the inside, how's it looking to you?
I wouldn't even say slowly. There's this perception that the internet is the Wild Wild West. It's less wild and less west than ever. And it feels like we finally reached Pacific because you have internet service providers all over the world that are also selling content. So, the independent content creator is now at the mercy of algorithms like never before. You have to play within the structure of these ecosystems in order to expand your audience in a way that hasn't been the case. There isn't an egalitarian nature to content creation going forward. And what I think that's going to do is push everything back into the tidy boxes of, cable television, meaning right now, content could be any length of time. I think that there's going to be different restrictions around that, meaning advertisers are going to start saying, hey, we have better luck when YouTube videos are over 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. And so then the algorithm will adjust and content that doesn't meet those type of standards won't be monetized the same way. and people would be screaming in, the dark the way the blog era might have felt sometimes, which is challenging. Now, with all those challenges comes new opportunities to create new ecosystems and community. And that's my favorite thing about hip hop, is that at its core, it is community. That's the biggest frustration I have with music media, hip hop media in general. It's, everyone is talking about culture, but not treating each other as members of the community. And I think whoever is able to fill that void while being able to be aware of the streaming challenges ahead as it becomes more like any other gatekeeper we've seen historically, I think those are the people who'll be able to win, because there's nothing more powerful than when your whole community stands up.
Absolutely, man. And again, I mean, we've got very, very different careers, but a lot of things do kind of seep into each other. And one of the things when we started this podcast, one of my main goals was like, I would love to just make this community a bit more tangible, if you know what I mean. As in, a lot of my friends listen to different podcasts and I enjoy all of them and different content. I would love it to be a bit more, this is us together helping each other, because it's beneficial for everyone. And also, I love hearing different takes. Mine and your childhood are very different, I'm assuming. But the fact that you can come on the phone with me now and talk to me with your take as opposed to my take, I feel like, wow, like, this is amazing. We are even can do this about 90s rap. So I hope what you're saying, like the new opportunities, yeah, man, people go out there and grab them, man. Like, it's like when you started YouTube, right? Like, you didn't think it would go this far, maybe, but here we are, and, you're still here, you're working in it, which is, a good thing for people like me to listen to that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to the content, man.
Yeah, I mean, as long as, I think sometimes people forget how fortunate we really are. I get paid to write about rap music. I mean, this is still the case. I get paid to write about a product that people don't buy. Meaning, when I started writing about rap, people were stealing it. Everything was like just pirated downloads. Yeah. Now they're renting it. Now at least they'll rent it. They'll rent it for 0.00015% at a time. And so the opportunity that we have to be able to be a part of a community, a valued asset to this culture, and that being based around something that people don't buy. It's a blessing.
It's mad, man. It's mad. And you are valued, my friend. You are valued, trust me.
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me.
Nah, man, all good. Where can we catch you, man? Where can we catch you on socials and that?
Follow at The Company Man on everything. Follow it on YouTube. Check it on IG, Twitter, the usual.
Nice one, man. So before you leave us, it's getting in, man. Of course it is. It's a classic. It's an absolute. It's Bone Thugs' best album. It's getting into Crate 808. Boom, in it goes. Second of all, before you do leave, what's the last great thing you listened to? Could be old, could be new, but just great.
Oh, the last great thing. Well, let's do that where I started, because I've been listening to all these tapes, and so while I've been putting together my studio, putting up all the soundproofing, I go through all these tapes, and the last great one I listened to was another one from the 90s. I'm not sure if it's in the crate, but it should be. DJ Quick, Rhythmalism. Incredible album. Okay. West Coast classic, but also cultural hip hop classic in general.
Nice,
and
man.
So I implore anyone to check it out. If you ever have me on again and do this again, I would probably talk about this album.
I'm here for the DJ Quick episode. And man, yeah, anytime, man. Doors are open all the time. So Justin, thank you very much for jumping on, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate all your work. Shout out to all your listeners out there. Go check us out. Crate808.com, Instagram, Facebook, socials. We're all over there. YouTubes. Thank you to Grindhouse Music for doing all the music for this podcast. And Kiki for streaming us. If you want to get us paid, go to kiki.co.uk. The streaming platform, we're on there. And Justin, thank you again. We should catch you on the flip side. Can't wait to see your next content, bro.
Oh, well, appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. Peace.
Peace.